All right, let's dive into a story that really redefined an entire galaxy. It's about a peaceful civilization right on the brink of being wiped out. It's about an ancient alliance that just chose to look away. And it's about the newcomers who showed up and decided, you know what, some rules are meant to be broken. So, our story kicks off with the Valerie of Solara Prime. Now, picture this. For 3,000 years, their whole society was a beacon. They didn't contribute weapons or build armies. They gave the galaxy beauty, incredible medicine, and deep wisdom. They were the artists and the healers in a universe that was about to test their pacifism in the absolute cruelest way you can imagine. And then, just like that, it all changed. The sky over their paradise, a world of white cities and ancient forests, just filled with warships. The brutal Cremenian Dominion had arrived, and with them, they brought an end to 3,000 years of peace. I mean, just look at this. You can see how impossible this choice was. The Cremenians' demands, they weren't just demands. They were complete rejection of everything the Valerie were. They weren't just being told to give up their planet. They were being ordered to give up their very soul. But the Valerie, they had hope. For as long as they'd been traveling the stars, they had been loyal members of the Galactic Confederacy. This was a huge alliance, over 200 species, all built on one promise: mutual defense, unity. This was their one and only chance. So, in the Great Hall of the Confederacy, the Valori ambassador, a man named Tith, he just laid his people's desperation bare. This wasn't some political maneuver. It was a raw, heartbreaking plea from a man watching his entire world burn, putting all his trust in the alliance he'd served his entire life. And this was the reply he got. High Chancellor Vorith delivered the verdict, and it wasn't with anger or malice. It was worse. It was with this chilling, pragmatic logic. The Confederacy had weighed the options. They literally calculated the cost of war versus the value of trade routes and stability. And the Valori, well, they lost the equation. And this official declaration just hammered it home. This wasn't just them deciding not to act. This was now official policy. The most powerful alliance in the galaxy drew a line around Solara Prime and basically told everyone, look away, let them die. They were truly, completely forsaken. But someone was watching. Someone who hadn't quite learned the galaxy's cynical math yet. Humanity. A very young species, barely 2 years on the galactic stage. Most of the older races saw them as primitive, maybe a little impulsive, but they saw the broadcasts, they heard the pleas, and they felt something that wasn't indifference. This quote from Commander Daniel Harrison, it just captures the human response perfectly. It wasn't about treaties or economic impacts. For them, it boiled down to a simple moral question. Why are we even exploring the stars if we're just going to become spectators to an atrocity? And so they made their choice. They sent what they had, just 47 ships. That was pretty much everything Earth could spare. It was a tiny force facing this massive armada of over 200 Cremenian warships. Let's be real, this wasn't a strategic gamble. This was a suicide mission, and it was based entirely on principle. And so the battle began. That small human fleet, they didn't even try to win. They just tried to be a shield. They parked their 47 ships right between the massive Cremenian fleet and the defenseless planet below, forming this thin, fragile line of pure defiance. For 8 absolutely brutal hours, it was just a storm of chaos and fire. The humans fought with a ferocity the galaxy had never seen before. They were sacrificing ships to save civilian transports. They even sent Marines down to the surface to pull children out of burning cities. Every single action was not about winning the fight, but about saving one more life. But the human line was about to break. They'd already lost a quarter of their fleet. Thousands were dead, and defeat was just moments away. And then, right as the Cremenian were getting ready for their final push, something happened. New ships started dropping out of FTL, appearing from every direction. But these weren't ships from the big powers of the Confederacy. No, it was the Karafi, the Saloni, the Mondari, species that the Confederacy had mostly ignored or dismissed. The forgotten ones, the abandoned ones, they were all coming to fight. So why? Why were they here? Admiral Cole just explains it perfectly. In their short time in the galaxy, humanity had helped these species, and they never asked for anything in return. They sent medical ships to fight a plague for one, they shared food with another that was starving, they gave aid just because it was needed. These weren't allies bound by some dusty old treaty. They were friends, bound by gratitude. Okay, so let's jump ahead 3 months. The Kermananian are defeated, and the Confederacy Council summons humanity. But they're not there to be celebrated. Oh no, they're there to be held accountable for breaking that sacred non-intervention rule. And this was humanity's defense. Ambassador Laura Bennett, she didn't apologize. She didn't make excuses. She simply explained that humanity's foreign policy was based on empathy. Just a simple, devastatingly powerful idea to drop in a hall that was built on cold calculation. And right here, you have the two clashing ideologies of the galaxy laid bare. On one side, you've got the Confederacy, built on rules and this idea of a greater good that so often just meant sacrificing the few. And on the other side, you have humanity, offering this totally new path, one built not on power, but on the simple decency of helping others. Ambassador Tith, the man whose world was saved, he gives the final testimony. He says the humans didn't just save his people, they restored their hope. They showed the entire galaxy that compassion wasn't a weakness, it was a strength, one that could forge alliances far stronger than any piece of paper. And that really leaves us with the core question of this whole story. In the face of suffering, what matters more? The carefully constructed rules of a system, or that basic moral impulse to just act? Humanity made its choice, and in doing so, they didn't just save a world, they changed the galaxy forever.